Welcome to the Inspired by Adventure podcast, bringing you the adventure across the airwaves. Here's your host, Cole Watkins.
All right, welcome everyone to another episode of Inspired by Adventure podcast. My name is Cole Watkins, and thank you for joining us today. Today, we are lucky to have Scott Johnson with us, who is a photojournalist and has done a lot of great work here, or a lot of great work with Aggressor Adventures. You've seen his photos, I'm sure, in some of our magazines. And so how are you doing today, Scott?
Doing well. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, we're happy to hear your story and how you got into diving and photography, and how you got into enjoying the Humpback Charters that we do in the Dominican Republic. The Dominican Republic, and we've talked earlier and found out that you've been there over 8 or 9 times. You couldn't quite remember. That's very impressive. So we just want to hear a little bit about you and talk a little bit about the humpback whales, and also thank you so much for sending over some of your favorite humpback shots that we'll get to at the end of this call. So if you listeners are listening today on the audio version, we do have the video version that you can find on Facebook and our website and YouTube, where you can see some of these photos that you're not going to want to miss. I promise you. I had a hard time cutting them down. So, all right, Scott. So why don't we go ahead and jump on into it? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you grew up?
I grew up in Upper East Tennessee, near the borders of Tennessee, Virginia, and North Carolina, kind of in the mountains, landlocked, away from the ocean. Was raised by blue-collar parents. Mom was a stay-at-home mom. She had me when she was in her mid-40s. You might say I was likely an accident. In terms of my connectivity to the ocean, my parents said it started at a very, very young age, at age 2 or 3. They said anything that was mentioned about the ocean or pictures was brought up about the ocean, I was fascinated. As I grew older, anything that came on TV, whether it was a Jacques Cousteau special or some type of even news program about the ocean, my parents said I was just glued to the TV screen or the radio broadcast. My experiences with photography were a little bit different in that I cared nothing about photography when I was younger. Photography came to me later on in life, and it was a way of coping. It became a tool for me, and that was because when I was a junior in high school, I was on a recruiting trip for basketball at the University of South Carolina. And after a session of practicing with the team, when I was traveling back to where I was staying in Columbia, South Carolina, I had a car wreck. And as a result of the car wreck, I ended up in the hospital. I had head trauma. As part of the head trauma, I lost all of my childhood memories from, let's say, the start of my freshman year in high school to birth. The memories were just gone.
Wow.
So I had to kind of relearn about myself. But when I got back to my hometown and went into my room, there were all these books on the ocean and sharks. And my parents started telling me about my fascination with the ocean and marine animals in general. So kind of fast forward in life, I graduated college. As soon as I made enough money to afford a scuba certification, I got one. I was determined to start diving in the ocean, to be able to see some of the animals that I had treasured when I was younger. Before that first ocean dive, I bought a Kodak disc camera and a plexiglass housing, and then I proceeded forth to try to capture memories. But after my first dive, and I had the film processed, and the shots came back terrible. There was no color. They were grainy. They weren't sharp. And I said, that's not what I remember. I remember all these vibrant colors. I remember the excitement. I remember such highs of emotion. And so photography became my way of trying to capture the essence of my experiences, particularly when I was diving. How I became a photojournalist was another event in my life that came unexpected. It's almost like God laid it in my lap and said, here you go. This is something you can't take credit for, but you have this opportunity. And that opportunity in part was birthed when I met Wayne Hassan on a trip to Cocos Island back in the mid 90s. Wayne, who I think was the original captain of Aggressor fleet back in the day and was certainly a public face for the company then. He saw some of my photography and he encouraged me to pursue it. He said, have you ever thought about doing photography and photojournalism professionally? And I said, no, had not thought about it. Wasn't even a consideration. He said, well, your photography is good enough that, if you fine tune this, fine tune that, he said, I think you could really make this work. So I started listening to Wayne's advice. He, even after the trip, he contacted me and we chatted, got to be really good friends. And he and Ann Hassan, his wife, they were a huge motivational influence on me becoming a photojournalist.
Wow. That's very cool. Now, how soon did you go and do your first Humpback Charter?
Oh, Humpback Charters came later on. I thought whales were neat. That neat's probably a dated word, but I thought they were certainly exciting, but I wanted to see sharks. I wanted to, whether it was sharks underwater or tigers in the jungle, I wanted to go see these species that movies had made so famous, from what Jaws horribly did to sharks. I mean, it certainly sensationalized them, but those movies played a part of me saying, I want to go see what this is all about. So I went to probably the most distant destinations I could get to start off, and I wanted to see sharks. Whales were not an original component. Whales did not come into play until after I'd already become a photojournalist, and a magazine publisher asked me if I would be willing to accept the assignment to the Silver Bank to document the humpback whale behavior and experience. I put it off for a while initially because I thought it would be boring. I said, I'm a diver, I'm not a snorkeler. And that's what the humpback encounters are. It's snorkeling. And I thought, I don't want to be bobbing around on the surface with the animals below me. That's not going to be a thrilling experience. I like being part of the scene. I like mixing closely with the animals. I don't want to be looking from the 5,000 foot view. But finally, primarily for monetary reasons, I accepted the assignment. I went down, and within probably 3 or 4 hours of my initial day on that very first charter, I was in tears. Wow. Because of being in the water with whales and the behavior and the connectivity, and it truly changed another one of those transcendent moments in my life that changed my perspective and said, hey, stop being ignorant, see the beauty in front of you.
Wow. Before we dive in and learn a lot more about the whales, I would like to hear your first. Do you happen to remember the first time you actually got a photo, an article put in a magazine, and what that was like?
Oh, well, I can't remember well, I can too. The first article that was published back in Skin Diver magazine.
Okay.
I don't remember what year, but I remember it was in Skin Diver, and I was very impressed when it came out that somebody thought enough of my work to publish it and share it with people. I was even more impressed by the check that came afterwards, because it said, hey, you get to go do what you enjoy doing and you can make money. I was in a corporate environment, unrelated to diving, unrelated to wildlife. So I thought, if I can make enough money doing what I enjoy doing, at some point in my life, maybe I can back away from the corporate world and transition into doing this full time. But at first, it was almost like a game. It was, okay, I got into one publication. Can I get into other publications? And can I broaden the topics that I write about? So that game became, I took what I knew of the corporate world in terms of developing relationships, partnerships, sponsorships, and I mixed that in with what I was learning about photojournalism, and I found out that I could be successful at it. So from that early first article in Skin Diver, I've been published in Maxim, all kinds of research journals, been published in China, Russia, Europe, North America, South America. But it all started out kind of as this interesting game, this interesting project that ended up being a career.
That's so cool. I'm trying to picture you. How old do you think you were when that first article got published?
Gosh, it is still as a result of that accident I had when I was younger. It's tougher for me to look back in my life. I'm very much a current day thinker and maybe a little bit forward thinker. I have to keep notes on just about everything I do, especially the destinations we go, so that when I'm writing articles, I can get back into the emotion, back into that experience to write about it. Okay. So excuse me if I pause. I would say that that first article was probably late 20s. Okay. When it was first published.
Yeah, I'm imagining you as a kid in the late 20s. Just I see you at your desk at your corporate job, just jumping up and down, seeing that article. Just thinking, "Wow, I made money off this."
It was a game at first. It was a game because again, I didn't want to prove to people that I was a good photographer. I was just glad to be capturing the memories. I wanted to hold on to those memories. I didn't want them to be taken away from me again. And then I found out there was more value than just capturing memories. You could actually share those memories with other people. So
talk about your win-win situation, huh?
Yeah, it was. It was and has been a win-win situation.
Very cool. All right, well, let's talk about some more. So you said after your first day in Dominican doing the studying on the whales, you had been brought to tears, but just the sheer connection you had with the whales. So tell us a little bit about the humpback whales and a little bit about the charters that we do here at Aggressor, and what you think of them as someone who's not technically a employee.
Well, the humpback whale encounters are well, there are many things. They're multifaceted. I mean, and each charter each year has been different and is different. Some years the charters that we have are focused on, let's say, moms and calves and experiencing them, because there's so many moms and calves in Silver Bank at that time. Sometimes it's all about the adults that are kind of looking for love that just provides so much dynamic action above the water that kind of steals the scene, so to speak. Sometimes it's about males that stay close to the yacht and sing, so much so that they wake guests up at night. I mean, there's just so many things that happen. One thing I would tell people, first of all, is that you can 100% guaranteed to see whales. Outside of that, each year is different. Each season is different. But the charters, I would rather go on a humpback charter than just about any other kind of animal experience that I would be offered.
Wow. Even though you've already done it 8 or 9 times, you still would take it back. It's that special.
If I could, I would spend the entire 3-month season at Silver Bank. I really would. I enjoy the whales so much, not just from a photography standpoint, but just from a connectivity standpoint. One of the things I enjoy so much about the whale experience at Silver Bank is it's about life. There's no predation there whatsoever. It's all about life. I mean, anyone that has worked around wildlife or is in some type of wildlife field, if they're being honest with you, they'll tell you it is 50% beauty and 50% brutal, because no matter if you're looking at trees in a jungle or you're looking at anemone fish in the sea, every life form is competing with other life forms for life. I mean, there's always this competition going on in nature, and it's absolutely brutal. It can be beautiful, but it's also brutal, and it doesn't escape my thoughts. Doesn't matter whether I'm in a jungle or a savanna or in the ocean. But when you're with humpbacks, there's really no feeding going on except the moms feeding the calves. The whales do not eat when they're in Silver Bank. That's not their focus. They don't eat. And Silver Bank is almost devoid of non-mammalian life. There's for as far back as scientists go in recorded history, there's never been very much life in Silver Bank. So there's not hardly any predators. So when you're there with the whales, you're going to see whales. You won't see much else, but you're going to see whales, and it's all about life. It's not about predation or death. And I just absolutely love that. That's become more precious to me, especially with all the environmental concerns around the world, with us, with the loss of habitats around the world, that you can spend time with whales, and it's so centered on life. It's just refreshing. It's truly refreshing.
Can you tell our viewers who are listening today that don't know exactly why the humpbacks are down there in the Silver Bank from January to April?
There are approximately 11 different communities of humpbacks around the world, I believe. I think that's probably the current estimate. The humpbacks that spend time in Silver Bank are referred to as North Atlantic humpbacks. They travel from their feeding grounds up in the north. They come south to Silver Bank for a couple of different reasons. One of them is so that mothers can give birth to calves in a relatively safe environment. Silver Bank, I think the average depth is only 60 to 100 feet. There are coral heads that clear the surface of the water depending upon the tides. So the mothers can come in, bring their newly born calves, snug up against the coral heads, and they can be relatively protected. There's no predators, and as long as they stay out of the way of the spring breaker whales, they're safe. So it's a safe environment for them. The other reason, besides the Silver Bank being a nursery, is that it is probably the largest spring break party for whales in the world. There's females that have had calves in the past that are looking for a new mate. There are females that have just become sexually active that are looking for their first experience. So they head south for the spring break party in Silver Bank. And then you've got all these males that just become saturated with testosterone to prove themselves to the ladies. And it is one of those, it's one of those things that you can relate to. If you're with a mom and a calf, it is so easy to relate to the human experience to the humpback experience, because you can see if you're in the water with a mom and she is a first-time mom, she is so protective typically of that calf, just like a human mom would be. She doesn't want you to come near her precious little calf. She doesn't trust you to babysit. However, if you find a mom that's had one or more calves in the past, she may say, "Oh, wow, babysitters, that's great. I can take an extra nap." You know, it can be a more relaxing experience. Same thing with the kids. So these calves, some of them you see, they're terrified the first time that they see a human or a snorkeler. They may go hide underneath mom. Mom will say, "Hey, my little kid is scared," and she'll take off and leave. However, you've got some other calves that just by the nature of the way they were born, their DNA, they're rambunctious. And they're like, "Mom, hey, look at these snorkelers, new toys. I want to go play with them." So you can kind of relate to that behavior between the moms and the calves and how they relate to other mammals. Well, it's the same thing with these ladies that are looking for a new date, and these guys that are wanting to impress the ladies. It's like if you were to go to a bar and you'd see guys flexing their pecs and trying to show off to impress a potential dating partner. You can just so relate to that. It's just this competition that is part of the dating scene.
How do they know to get back to the Silver Bank? Like, how do they know it's time to go there? How do they make sure they're getting there from their different areas that they're coming from?
No one's really sure. I say no one. The scientific community is not really sure. Pretty much, I would say most of the questions that you ask about humpbacks, I can give you theories. I can give you suggestions, but so much is unknown. Unknown being that it's unproven. Why do whales sing? Why do whales go to certain areas at specific times? The scientific community simply doesn't know. There's theories, but
Is
nothing.
there a theory that their songs, because I learned this, that their songs do change every year. There's parts of their song that get added to the current song. Is that right? And I was wondering, do you, in your mind, do you think that that could have something to do with how they're getting back to the Silver Bank?
I don't know that either, because if you do an internet search on humpback songs, you'll find out there are a wide range of theories as to why they sing. Scientists don't even know specifically why they sing. It's almost the same as why they breached. Why do they breach? Do they do it for a specific purpose? Do they do it because they can? Do some humpbacks sing because they can? Do they do it to attract a mate? Do they do it to be a part of a larger community? Those songs differ by population of humpbacks, but within that population, they change from year to year in the same way. So that if you hear a song from one whale, it's going to be the exact same or very similar to the song of that humpback in that same population. So there's a dynamic relationship to singing and humpbacks, but we don't know exactly why that song started or how it impacts the whales within that population.
I see. And when I was going through your photos earlier, there's a lot of topside and a lot of in water snorkeling encounters. Do you have a preference of which one you're shooting?
By the nature of who I am, I would prefer to be in the water, near the animal, feeling what that animal, try to feel what that animal's feeling, or try to understand the behavior better. With humpbacks, their lives take place and unfold both above the water and below the water. I have been in the water when a humpback whale breaches, and that's a totally different experience than seeing a humpback breach from a tender or from the yacht. It's a more beautiful experience if you see it above water. If you're in the water, it's almost like a bomb going off. So I would say that there's a slight preference for me to be able to experience them in the water, but there are some days that the activity above the water is so good, with all the activity of the action of breaching or peck slapping or tail lobbing, that you just choose to concentrate on the topside activity.
Interesting. Is there anything else you want to talk about before I share my screen, we start going through some of these photos? I have some questions down here prepared that I want to talk to you about, but it'd be better to talk about when we're going over the photos. Is there anything else you just want to say about the trip? Tell us about the aggressor aspect of the trip. If you're
Well, all of our trips have been via the Turks and Caicos Aggressor. Turks and Caicos Aggressor operates out of Puerto Plata, Dominican Republic, during humpback season. Humpback season typically lasts from January through April each year. That's when the majority of the humpbacks will be in Silver Bank. The sanctuary that protects the humpbacks while they're in Dominican Republic extends beyond the Silver Bank, goes to Navidad Bank and others. However, the only opportunity for humans to legally be able to get in the water with the humpbacks is at Silver Bank. So there are 3 licenses, I believe, only 3 licenses that will allow people to go on a charter with a company, go to Silver Bank. All of our charters have been with Aggressor Fleet, so I can pretty much only speak to the Aggressor Fleet or Aggressor Adventures point of view. You go into fly into Puerto Plata. You're welcomed onto the yacht. That night, you leave for Silver Bank just as you're about to go to sleep, and you wake up the next morning in Silver Bank, surrounded by humpback whales. I mean, it's almost like a dream come true. You wake up and their whales are everywhere. So during a charter, as soon as you arrive in Silver Bank, it's whales throughout the day, and then just sharing experiences at night. You are given two tender rides during a day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and it's just focused on whatever the wells bring you. Because the one thing that is clear, after you spend a little bit of time with whales, that the whales dictate all encounters. You can't outswim a whale, you can't outthink a whale, you can't trick a whale. All you can do is, if you don't act properly around whales, you can offend them and they'll leave. That's basically it. So the whales dictate all the encounters. They dictate whether your activities are going to be above the water or in the water. And then the crew being able to interpret the humpback's mood. It impacts tremendously on the experience that each guest has or the group has. The people that we've had, the crew members that we've had on our charters, have been invaluable in maximizing our time with the whales and helping us understand what's happening, what's taking place, what we're witnessing, and why we did get in the water on one situation, why we didn't get in the water another situation. The crew has been invaluable in kind of teaching people. And one thing about these trips, and Lauren and I have taken family members, friends, divers, non-divers, is we want to create whale ambassadors. And I think that's the objective, besides the crew wanting to keep the guests safe, wanting to help the guests have an enjoyable time. They want to create whale ambassadors, because these whales are a very precious treasure for the world.
So we talked a little bit about the females. I'm sorry, the new moms and how protective they are with the calves. Tell us a little bit about the males that are coming down there. You talked about them showing off a little bit, just kind of like you might see a guy do that at a bar to pick up some girls. But what is their activity like? I think you might have even used the word rowdy. What can you tell us about that?
Well, the whales, I won't typecast them in saying that they have a specific type of behavior. They have varied behaviors from individual to individual. Some of them seem very laid back. Some of them seem like they've had too much caffeine. I don't know how to say it other way except to express it in human terms. Besides the humpbacks dictating the encounters, when you're working around whales or wanting to enjoy experiences with whales, you have to learn about the whales' breath cycles, because you have these animals that are on the surface. You can see them on the surface, and then they disappear, and they can pop up behind you, beside you, or you may never see them again because they've swam and left the area. But a typical adult humpback will stay underwater an average of 18 to 20 minutes on a single breath. Okay. They can certainly stay down longer than 20 minutes, but let's say on average, they're going to stay down somewhere between 18 to 20 minutes on a single breath. So if you're watching humpbacks, you may have an 18 to 20 minute wait before you see them pop up again. If they are one or two humpbacks that are simply coming up for a breath of air and then going down to take a snooze, they may take a breath, 2 or 3 breaths, go down. You don't see them for 20 minutes. They pop up. They're in about the same spot. They're just taking a nap when they go down. If you see a mom and a calf, the mom, same thing. She can stay down, or she may stay down 18 to 20 minutes on that single breath. The calf, though, will have to come up about every 2 to 5 minutes, depending upon how old that calf is, the development of that calf.
Okay.
So that if you're with a mom and a calf, it's so much easier to track the movements typically of the whales, because the calf has to keep coming up to the surface, let's say 3 to 4 times more frequently than the mom.
Giving away.
Go ahead.
Yeah, he's giving away their location.
He's giving away their location. And I would say that in terms of in-water time, mom and calf encounters it's like underwater gold. If you can find an experienced mom, a mom that's comfortable with her child being essentially babysitted by us snorkelers, us human beings, and you find a kid that is somewhat precocious, then you can spend 2 hours or more with the same mom and calf as they go through the breath cycles and just move a little bit at a time as the mom comes up, the baby comes up. If you find a mom and she wants to go take a nap, she's going to take a breath, go down, the calf will go with her, and then the calf's going to pop back up while the mom's staying in the same place. And the calf will start swimming in a circle pattern at the surface. If you see this a couple of times, you understand what's going on. And once the guests understand what's going on, you can see everybody smile, because it means that this could be a mom and a calf, and it could end up with an in-water encounter. That encounter may be that you get into the water and the mom and calf leave because it's a first-time mom, it's a nervous mom, or it's a nervous calf, or it could mean that you're going to have 2 hours or more of just in-water pure joy ahead of you. So that's one situation. If you've got to get back to your point about the adult males, if it's a lone adult male, if it's a singer, you've got one experience where you may be right above them. You can see them below you, and you can hear them singing. I think I hear it more with my heart than I do with my ears. It's such an emotional thing. Again, we've had family and friends that have been fortunate enough to be right above a singer as it sings, and I've turned and I've seen tears in their eyes, just like me that first day, just tears in their eyes because the song, it just creates it can create such a well of emotion inside you. So that can be one experience with a male where it's very sedate. It's just one experience. Or you could be with a bunch of males that are simply seem to be intent on causing as much havoc and creating as much chaos on Silver Bank as possible. I mean, one of the biggest jeopardies to your time with a mom and calf. Let's say you found a mom and calf and they're so chilled, and you're in the water with them, and you're thinking, oh wow, I'm going to be with these guys for quite some time. And then along comes 7 or 8 males just causing chaos, and the mom and the calf goes, oh no, this is not for us, we're leaving, and they just totally blow up your encounter. So there's not much you can do except get back in the tender and just follow these guys around as they peck slap, it's almost like a WWF wrestling match. They sometimes just pound on top of one another. They create bubble streams to confuse one another. They tail lob. It's just a rowdy show. So the experience with the males can be very sedate to just like a sporting event. I mean, it really can. It's the beauty and the elegance of gymnastics to see them breach, but it's also the power and the collisions of something like football or rugby.
Yeah. And only the males are singers, right?
As far as we know, that's correct. And we don't know if all males sing or if there's just specific males sing. We don't know that. There are certain areas where the males that do sing have a higher tendency to sing more at night than they do during the day. Like I mentioned earlier, we've actually had guests wake up in the middle of the night because a whale has decided to park itself right beside the yacht and start singing. And you get that 3 o'clock alarm of whale song, and you're up and going, what is going on?
He said, you guys are disturbing the female naps. I'm going to disturb your sleep.
That's right.
Well, okay. One other thing that just popped up earlier in the call, you talked about the different groups. You said there's 9 or 10 different groups you guys think about humpback whales around the world.
Scientists, I think the last number I saw was 11.
11.
But there are approximately 11 that are spread across the globe.
Are they all called the same area? So we're seeing the North Atlantic humpbacks. What are some of the other groups?
Okay, there are 3 areas that I know of where it is legally possible to get in the water with humpbacks in a manner similar to Silver Bank, where you've got a calving ground where mom is coming to give birth to a calf and or to raise a calf, so calving ground, and also this, what I termed a while back, spring bake party for whales. One is Silver Bank, another one is French Polynesia, that's Tahiti spread out, French Polynesia, and the other one is Tonga, which is closer to Australia and Fiji in that area.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, do you want to go into talking about some of these photos?
Be glad to.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, and I will say, I opened up about 100 images from Scott this morning, and I had a very hard time narrowing it down to 20 or 30 here. So we got some good images here to look at. I was hoping to be able to share my whole screen here. Let's see if I can do it advanced. Yeah, let's see how this goes. All right, so tell us a little bit about this image.
I be glad to. I can't tell you what year, what charter that the shots were taken, but I can certainly tell you what was going on at this time. The whale on the right is a mom. She's probably 35 feet long or so. The calf is maybe 12 feet long. And this is a situation where my group was in the water with this mom and calf. As the mom would go down, take a nap, the calf would do the circles or semicircles and kind of mix with the snorkelers. And the mom decided to surface. And when she did surface, she started swimming directly towards me. So I have got a series of about 30 shots where this mom kept swimming towards me, and I was swimming backwards as fast as I possibly could. I wasn't so concerned about her hitting me because, from my experiences, humpbacks are more aware of their world around them than we humans are, and they have more dexterity with their pectoral fins. The pectoral fins are those wide appendages you see on either side of the whale that are a third the body length. So if you got a 30-foot whale, each one of those pecs are going to be 10 feet long. They have more dexterity in those pectoral fins than what we do with our arms. So I wasn't so much worried that she was going to hit me as I was impossibly disrupting the behavior. But the mom was so chilled. The calf was so chilled. You can see the little wiggle in the calf over to the left, very playful. And for whatever reason, she was just determined to come check me out.
Wow. So I'm gonna have to go to a different share screen because apparently I have all these images open as just different file types. So I'm gonna open. Okay. So we won't go through all 20 of them, but I'm gonna go through. I know I've already got it narrowed down. I wanted to talk to you about this one because the pattern here, which are the throat grooves, are just so beautiful on the underside of a humpback. Can you tell us what's the function of that?
Okay, I can tell you, and this particular shot, I do know when it was taken because this was taken last year, 2020, when I spent pretty much most of the month of February in Micronesia and Palau doing Palau Aggressor charters, Rock Island Aggressor charters. And came back home during the madness of the COVID quarantine and pandemic, made it back into the U.S., was home for 2 weeks. And then my wife and I met a group of people. We had chartered the entire vessel to go down and experience the time with the whales. We knew there was concerns about the global pandemic, but the whales were so important to us that we went ahead and made the effort on the trip. So we ended up going to the charter. This image was taken. Then the Dominican Republic, the president closed the borders. We had to end the charter a day soon, but this image and the memories of that charter kept us going through what was an extended dry spell for us last year. So I'm sorry for that blurb, but I do know when this was taken. The lines that you see running down the underneath side of the whale gives the whale flexibility so that when they open their mouth when they're feeding in the north, their jaws and also the material underneath the jaws, the skin underneath your jaws, can expand greatly so they can take in more water and thus take in more fish. So it is a more efficient way for them to feed.
Yeah, and I think it works a little bit like an accordion would. Is that right?
That's correct. That's correct.
All right, let's move on to a different one here. Let's see what we got. Yeah, here we go. The breach. Now, can they come fully out of the water?
The most that I have ever seen them come out of the water is similar to this.
Okay.
I have seen moms and calves breaching at the same time, and the calf barely gets out of the water. Okay. I have seen males that all but their flukes come out of the water.
Okay.
Almost like this one. When you do see it again, it's spectacular, and sometimes they will breach close to the yacht. I've got a series of shots from the Turks and Caicos Aggressor where a humpback breached beside one of the other yachts and sprayed the port side of the vessel. It was so close. So sometimes these guys will breach close to the yacht. Sometimes they'll breach close to the tenders. Like this was taken, I would say this breach was about 25 yards off the tender when this was taken. A series of shots were taken. And then most frequently you'll see them breach on the horizon. We call them horizon whales because they breach, and you want to go motor there as quickly as possible to see them breach more. And when you get there, they're gone. So those are horizon whales. But when you are fortunate enough to see one up close, it's just such a majestic expression of, again, life.
When they go up and jump, Scott, are they always going up and then turning a little bit and then splashing on their back?
The motions can be different, but again, scientists have shown that they prefer to breach into the wind. So that if you one of the ways from photography's perspective, if you've got whales in the area and there seems to be a lot of breaching going on, and you have wind, then you at least can predict that when they breach, they're going to breach into that direction, that wind direction. And is it because the wind gives them dynamic lift that helps them breach higher or easier? I don't know, but they do tend to breach into the wind.
Interesting. All right. I know which one I want to do next is let me find it real quick. Okay, yes, I want to talk about this image too, because this is right by the wreck that's there in the Silver Bank, the Polizini. Is that how you pronounce it?
That's correct.
Okay. So yeah, tell us about this shot.
This shot, I was actually working with another writer, and this day was shot, I can't remember the year, but it was taken on Valentine's Day. During the charter. So we were there mid-February. The writer that I was working with was writing a story for a magazine. I was providing the imagery, and we happened to see a young whale that was seemed to be fascinated with its fluke. It kept sticking its fluke out of the water, slapping it, etc. So we followed it around for quite some time, and as it moved and it worked its fluke, it got closer and closer to the wreck. So there was an opportunity at some point for me to capture a series of shots of this fluke and the wreck. The wreck, when I first started going to Silver Bank, that wreck was totally out of the water, intact.
Yeah.
And if you go to Silver Bank now, it may not be visible at all. So we've seen it become go from a fully intact wreck that was halfway out of the water on the reef to now it's just rusted away. But this was a very special moment for the writer because he was able to include this as part of a Valentine's Day theme that he used for the article.
Very cool. And you got a bird flying there in the background too. A lot of
Yes, boobies.
All right, so let's pick out one or two more. Let's see. I wish you could see the ones I'm looking at here. I'm trying to find some different things to talk about. This one right here might be a good one to share because you can talk about how close you guys get in the water with them.
This is a prime example of one, that the whales do dictate the encounter, and also of the differences between the moms and the calves. If you look at the bottom right of the image, you can see the mom taking a nap. And this is the calf that, when coming up to get air, decides to play with the new toys. And that's the snorkelers in our group. When they, one of the rules of humpback whale encounters is that you don't try to touch the animals. You don't touch them, but you don't even try to touch the animals. That you don't make excessive amounts of noise. They're considered to be soft in water encounters. The whales dictate those encounters. You do not make any aggressive motions towards the whales. You're supposed to be there in a very calm state, enjoying the beauty that unfolds before you. However, nobody is able to give the whales the same meeting briefing that says, "Hey, whales, you can't touch the snorkelers." So this calf, in some ways, acted like a bowling ball that just came and scattered the snorkelers just like pins on a bowling lane, and it did it repeatedly. So this was just an opportunity. People want to know, how close can you get to the whales? This is a calf. This particular calf was probably close to maybe 15 feet long. And you can see the people are trying to get out of the way because this calf is intent on playing.
Wow. Did he actually touch them, or was it just, when you say moving them away like bowling pins, was just the sheer strength he's gotten with his fluke? And
well, an adult humpback, I have no concerns whatsoever as to whether or not they're going to hit me. If they hit me, they're intending to hit me. I once had a female that goes into a very amorous state is considered to be a Valentine. And when she does that, she'll mimic the behavior of other whales around her. She'll even mimic the behavior of snorkelers that are in the water with her. Well, anyway, one time I had a Valentine that was looking for love come up and knock my camera out of my hands. So I had to, once I caught my breath, I had to dive down to get my camera as it slowly sunk by the whale's head. Wow. And then she came up and circled me, and it got within just a few feet away. She turned her head so I could see her eye out of the water, and it was almost like she was laughing. She was just in such a giddy mood. She was attempting to flirt. I don't know if she saw her eye on the dome port of my housing, but she decided that she was going to slap this thing that was in my hands. So we have had adult humpbacks come and outline the entire tender. These tenders, there is a sunscreen, a roof on them to help keep the sun off the tender driver and the guests. Yep. And we've had one of these adult humpbacks come up and outline the tender, including the canopy over top of the console, without touching anybody.
Wow.
I mean, there's some shots that I sent you where you can see one of the guest ball caps, and the humpbacks, the pectoral fin is outlining above it. So they are fully developed, very intelligent animals. And if you get hit by one, they intended to hit you. A calf, on the other hand, is just almost like a human kid, meaning that they're not fully developed. They don't have the control over their pectoral fins or their bodies that the adults do. So there is a chance that if you get a precocious calf, it may bump into you. And that's just the nature of dealing with a young animal.
Right. I was trying to find a good one. I can't quite zoom in when I'm sharing my screen. I was trying to find a good one that showed the bumps that's on the rostrum. So let's, so let's see if I'm taking one more look here. This one might be good. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, tell us a little bit about the bumps that are there on there?
Those are called tubercles. Each bump has a hair inside of it, and that hair provides the well with different information. Could be the salinity of the water. It could be the wind direction when they take the rostrum and lift it above the air or above the water surface into the air. So those hairs, each individual hair provides the whale with sensory input that taken together gives the whale a more complete picture of the environment. If one of those tubercles gets damaged, and they often get damaged when they run into each other, especially the males when they're doing their macho games,
Okay.
if it gets damaged, it's not replaced.
Wow.
So that's just one of the whale's systems for gathering input or information.
I wonder if they all have the same amount.
That I don't know.
Yeah, that's I didn't realize that's what they were. I knew it was a hair follicle, but I didn't realize it was something that was helping them with sensory. That's
Yes.
very interesting. So yeah, I wonder if some have more than others, and if that makes them, hyper aware compared to others.
And another thing about that image is that was taken with a 14 millimeter lens, and I was 14 to 24 millimeter lens, and that was taken at 14 millimeters, so it was zoomed out all the way, and I still couldn't get all of the whale in the picture. That's how close it was to me at the surface.
Wow. All right, now Scott, one other question I wanted to ask you was, do you think this is something that's is for all ages? Since it's not actually diving, because for kids and older folks as well. What do you think about that?
I think Aggressor Adventures offers two experiences that are absolutely great introductions to the marine world of marine animals. The first one being the humpbacks, the second one being the white sharks off Guadalupe Island. The reason being is because you don't have to be a diver to be able to enjoy and share these experiences.
Right.
Lauren and I chartered the Turks and Caicos Aggressor for 5 or 6 years, not because we wanted to make money from the charters, but because we wanted to share the experiences with family and friends, and we wanted to share them all together at the same time. Okay. So one of the people that came out with us on the charters didn't even know how to swim. Before the charter, she went and got swimming lessons. She arrived in Silver Bank with some floaties for her arms, and this is a mother of 2 children. She arrived by herself in Silver Bank with these floaties. We provided a wetsuit for her, and then Turks and Caicos Aggressor provided one of the dive guides to essentially help pull her through the water so that she could enjoy the whales. She was so fascinated with the trip, enjoyed it so much that she went back and got more swim lessons, came back the next year on the charter. Then after that charter, she went and got scuba diving lessons. Wow. So she went from a non-swimmer to a certified scuba diver in 3 years because of the humpback whales.
Wow.
We have had guests, family members, and friends in their late 80s that have been within a couple of feet from these whales in the water and just enjoying life. So I don't know at what age, maybe 11 or 12. I don't know what the approved age is for kids to go out on these charters, but from that very, very young age, preteen, until late age in life, as long as you're physically fit enough, you can get in the water, or you can stay in the tender, or you can enjoy it. We've even had some guests that, for whatever reason, just simply enjoy staying on the yacht, watching the whales from the yacht.
Yeah.
They may skip a morning session or an afternoon session because they just enjoy the experience from the yacht. So what a tremendous opportunity to be able to share with your kids. If you've got a non-diving spouse or significant partner, if you've got familial relations or work relationships that you say, hey, we want to do something fun and adventurous, they don't have to be a diver. You can go do this. And one of the other things that Aggressor Adventures often offers now is the Safari Lodge in Sri Lanka that we absolutely have taken non-divers as part of that trip. They've been able to experience the safari lodge with us. We go on diving and then they go elsewhere. And I know that's not part of Silver Bank, but I think it's such a tremendous opportunity. It's such a wonderful vehicle to be able to take people, let them show a healthy wildlife, healthy environments, and then go out and make them ambassadors, especially whale ambassadors. That's
a great answer. That's awesome to hear. Well, Scott, these images are great. Some of the best ones I think I've ever seen. Yeah, you can tell how talented you are and how passionate you are about these whales in the Dominican Republic. And I just want to thank you for coming on with us today and sharing your insight.
It's a joy to talk about humpbacks.
Yeah. So maybe we'll have you on some other time and hear a little bit more about some of your scuba diving adventures and get to see some of your images from there. That would be really interesting.
It'd be an honor. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, all right, Scott. Well, that's it. We're going to wrap it up. I want to thank everyone for listening, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye, Scott.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning into the Inspired by Adventure podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you haven't already, please subscribe through iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. See you next time.